Rogan, famous for his bold discussions and controversial opinions, recently grabbed headlines with some funny and outrageous remarks about Sean Diddy Combs during one of his episodes. Rogan brought up the long-standing rumors about Diddy, who frequently becomes the focus of wild tales in comedy routines and late-night chats.
And allegations against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Now, one woman is accusing him of a sexual assault here in the Bay Area. The new suit was filed in just the past 24 hours. ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena has the details. We do need to warn you the allegations are triggering.
In disturbing detail, the latest civil lawsuit against rapper Sean Diddy Combs breaks down a horrific scene inside an Orinda apartment in 2018.
Very savage gang rape.
A woman claims to have met Diddy over FaceTime in 2018 after running into one of his friends at a bar. During that conversation, her attorney said the woman made a comment that upset the rapper.
Told Mr. Combs she believed he had something to do with Tupac's murder, so she wasn't interested or impressed with seeing him.
The lawsuit says a month later, Diddy's friend allegedly set her up to be raped by Diddy in Orinda, where she said she was drugged and threatened with a knife. And Diddy said she would pay for her statements about Tupac during the video call. The lawsuit says that while violently raping the woman, the rapper told her her life was in his hands and that if he wanted, he would take her and she would never be seen again. According to her attorney, the woman was raped by other men as well. And despite being drugged, she was able to escape. On her way out, telling Diddy she did not party with him and did not enjoy partying with him and that he raped her. The lawsuit claims neighbors in the area called police.
Contra Costa Sheriff came out to the neighbor's home at the time of the incident because several police reports several 911 calls allegedly were made.
According to the lawsuit, several weeks after the rape, the accuser went to the hospital because she was still in pain. The lawsuit claims hospital personnel called Walnut Creek police, who took a statement from the accuser. This time, she said she did not want to name Diddy. She says she was afraid that she wouldn't be believed and that later on, the rapper would harm her. We contacted Walnut Creek and Orinda police departments and have not heard back. The woman's attorney saying law enforcement agencies refused to hand over the police reports.
That's disturbing in and of itself. Her team needs this information.
Despite a number of new allegations of rape and sexual assaults from 1995 to 2021 against the rapper, legal analyst Stephen Clark is urging for these allegations to be investigated independently.
Was this individual treated like a sexual assault victim, or was she treated as someone that was not credible?
The accuser is seeking $50 million in damages from Diddy and those involved. In Orinda, Luz Pena, ABC 7 News.
In the conversation, Rogan, using his signature sarcastic style, mentioned Diddy's name. As he talked about the rumors, he jokingly suggested that people share these wild stories, partly serious and partly for laughs, to keep Diddy's legend alive. Rogan went on to highlight the ridiculousness of some claims that often come up in comedy. He playfully asked how anyone could possibly know the details attributed to Diddy, pointing out that it doesn't take much for a joke or a rumor to blow up into something bigger.
And coerce victims to fulfill his sexual desires.
Diddy's downfall.
I believe the indictment is the tip of the iceberg.
From a life of luxury to a New York jail cell.
People in Diddy's inner circle could be turning against him. So who's next to be named?
They are cutting deals with them to testify.
In music's Me Too moment.
I do think that he will be found guilty.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
Hello and welcome to Extra Minutes, the 60 Minutes podcast. I'm Adam Hegarty and I'm joined by producer Sammy Taylor.
Hey,
Sammy,
Adam.
good to see you, as always. Now, we've looked into the legal saga surrounding music mogul, rapping mogul Sean Diddy Combs, currently in a jail cell, and we've gone back to former FBI agent Tracy Walder to get her take on it all. She's always on the money, it seems, isn't she?
She is. A lot of the things that Tracy predicted when we spoke to her a couple of months back have now come true.
Yeah, so what's that, the time taken, wasn't it? That was the big one between the big raids on his homes and then actually an indictment?
Absolutely. Look, when we first spoke to Tracy back in June of this year, we were talking to her about these raids that were done on Sean Combs' properties in Miami and in Los Angeles. I think at the time, the raids were seen to be quite destructive, that they were almost over the top in a way, very messy, you know, every couch cushion turned over, you know, property damage done as they kind of, federal agents combed through every corner of those properties. And those raids were done at the same time as well. And Tracy told us at the time that that was probably to prevent anyone trying to destroy evidence.
Yeah, we cottoned on pretty quick, didn't we, in that interview a few months ago, that she was talking about something that might have been taped, or a lot of things that might have been taped and on video in his possession.
Absolutely. You know, Tracy told us that her...
The aim wasn't to make direct accusations, but to illustrate how easily a public figure can become the focus of wild stories, some based in reality and others completely made up. Rogan recounted details about a Miami mansion, implying that Diddy's behavior was as troubling as Epstein's, mentioning that many of the women were young, some barely of legal age. Rogan's co-host, Brian, remarked that Diddy sounded like a monster. In response, Laura noted the seriousness of the indictment, mentioning that over 300 subpoenas were issued and more than 50 witnesses interviewed. This is significant because federal prosecutors wouldn't pursue such an indictment lightly. As Rogan highlighted, sometimes you don't need solid proof. A story can still be entertaining without evidence. His acknowledgement of this opened the door for him to explore the more absurd rumors about Diddy.
They pull a criminal defense attorney. So, Brian, what Matt was just talking about, these so-called freak-offs, these were no secret. So he'd been openly bragging about these wild parties. You know, there's like sex parties, and it looks like, you know, there were probably lots of other things going on there too. But he was bragging about this for, what, a couple of decades. Watch.
This is what you need to do. Women, beautiful women. We need alcohols.
Right.
Alcohols.
Right. Not just one alcohol.
Alcohols.
Right, just
Plurals.
different blend. You need the ladies, you need the booze. Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Brian, that was creepy, but what took the Fed so long to do something?
Hey, Laura, always great to be with you. Yeah, I think it's I'm in LA, it's the Hollywood celebrity path to justice, where we simply look at a clip like that and we laugh and giggle about, oh, let's get alcohol, let's get drugs, let's get all these ladies at a party. You know, for years, P. Diddy's gotten a hall pass. He's actually created his own kingdom where he makes his own rules, and you got to follow his rules or you get penalized. And guess what, Laura? He's now in a federal penitentiary, and for the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court. 90% of federal criminal indictments brought down are pled out, right? A plea deal is brought. And of the only 10% left, 90% of those defendants that go to trial, they lose. So he is looking at a daunting uphill battle to fight these horrible charges.
Now, Brian, one of the DHS agents...
He joked about going to one of Diddy's infamous parties, envisioning wild and exaggerated scenarios that align with the Hollywood myths about the music mogul. While these stories may be far-fetched, they flourish in circles where people are eager to believe anything about someone as influential as Diddy.
We're specifically looking for video evidence, for digital evidence, whether that was flash drives, hard drives, you know, home security systems, those kinds of things. And we now know, after Combs's arrest and the indictment, that she was correct, that what they've discovered is video evidence.
And she's pretty strong on that point, isn't she? What'd she say, about 80 to 90% of what's being said could be on video, and it's a pretty scary thought considering what we're reading.
100%. Look, the indictment is 14 pages long. Tracy says that that's not common, that that's actually quite short, which I thought was interesting.
But it's the detail, isn't it?
The detail is incredibly graphic in that indictment, and with what it describes, specifically in relation to the video evidence that the agents have seized.
Yeah, well, you've read through that very closely, Sammy, as I have, but take us through that indictment, Sammy. I mean, we both read through that, and everything sort of captures your attention pretty much on every line, but what are those allegations against
No,
Combs?
absolutely. Look, he's been charged on 3 counts. He's been charged on racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And they're pretty big claims, pretty big accusations. The detail that's in the indictment is quite frankly quite horrific. It describes, these sex parties that Sean Combs would allegedly host. He called them freak-offs. They're really graphic, kind of awful things to discuss, but essentially what the indictment says is that women and male sex workers were brought in to kind of undertake a sexual performance.
And that's the trafficking side of things.
Absolutely, and that a lot of these encounters were filmed. It's really tough stuff to kind of talk about and tough to read. But when you also look at what else...
Rogan's humor went beyond just the party jokes. He broadened his critique to Hollywood and the entertainment industry overall. He noted that Hollywood is a chaotic place, and that power, especially in a city driven by fame and fortune, can corrupt anyone.
Mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that, in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster.
Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment.
He reflected on how even his friends, who have far less influence than someone like Diddy, changed once they gained a bit of fame or power. This insight set the stage for Rogan's playful criticism of Diddy, implying that while the stories may be exaggerated, they arise from a genuine culture of excess in Hollywood.
Not just video evidence, but firearms, narcotics, 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
It is, and then you look at the racketeering side of things, don't you? Racketeering is a funny one, because when you hear racketeering and RICO, you think of crime gangs, biker groups, but when we spoke to Tracy, she was pretty clear about it, wasn't she, that this can now apply to individuals, and the accusation in Diddy's case is that he's formed this protective group around him who would do his bidding. That's the accusation here, and that's the racketeering side of things.
Yeah, when we were talking to Tracy, she suspects that there are other people that might be caught up in this, that, there might be more charges laid, and that a lot of people in Diddy's inner circle may actually choose to turn against him and share their own stories about what they may have witnessed.
That was the big one for me. Talking to Tracy, she made note again of the video evidence, which is, as you say, pretty shocking to think about, but was that a striking contrast to you when we're talking about people potentially turning on Combs? Because for so long, over months and years now, we've heard that he has this really close-knit group around him who, allegedly, would protect him at all costs.
Yeah, you even look at, we spoke to Susie Siegel a couple of months ago. She was Combs' assistant for a very short period of time, but described kind of the power and the magnetism, I guess, that he has and how loyal his supporters are and the people that worked for him and with him. And so I suppose that when you then look at what Tracy has said, that some of those people may turn on him, some of those people may decide to, speak with federal agents in the case against him. That's a pretty big claim.
Yeah, a lot of civil cases against Diddy, isn't there? We should make note of that. But in this indictment, it's only one victim, and that victim is not named. Yeah. So we're talking here that a lot of the evidence in that...
One of the more serious points Rogan made was about how power affects behavior. He argued that once a person, whether a celebrity or a politician, gains power, they often become hesitant to let it go.
And they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women, that he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs. That's been alleged in the indictment. and that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutor's got to prove. And if you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his pleasure island. Who else? Who went? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs?
Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9 for a likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down, Laura. That's an important point here, because he's being charged with racketeering and conspiracy. You're going to have, well, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You can possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be, they're already talking about this. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? If you've got some music moguls that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs, then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise.
All right, Brian, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
But to anyone in positions of authority, including government officials and industry leaders, Rogan suggested that power can distort a person's sense of reality, leading them to act in ways they normally wouldn't without that influence.
From witnesses as opposed to victims.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to note that all of this came about because the raids themselves back in March were triggered by a lawsuit that was filed by his ex-girlfriend, by Cassie Ventura. Her bravery is to be commended in talking about this and bringing this up. And we know from that video that leaked to CNN of his 2016 assault of her in a Los Angeles hotel that she's obviously been through a lot. It must have taken a lot for her to speak out and to file her own lawsuit. And a lot of what she and her legal team allege in that lawsuit lines up almost word for word with things that we are now seeing, claims that are being made in that indictment, in that federal indictment.
It felt like Cassie was the person, and that was the moment, wasn't it, where accusers started being believed more broadly.
Absolutely. You know, we have decades of rumour swirling about Diddy.
It's crazy in hindsight, isn't it?
It is. You know, we even have interviews that he gave, you know, to entertainment outlets back in, you know, the late 90s, where he says, my parties are wild, you know.
I'll be arrested.
I'll be arrested for my parties. And you look back at that and he almost, what he says has come true too.
Your parties are the hottest ticket around.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time.
Well, it seemed like tongue-in-cheek at the time, but now you look at it in the context of this indictment, could be more to it.
I also just think, you know, it was kind of part of his hip-hop story, I guess, in a way, you know.
Sean Diddy Combs has been hit with 6 new lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, including from a 16-year-old boy. The musician has been further accused of raping women and sexually assaulting men, though has previously denied all of the charges against him. Our US correspondent Martha Kellner has the latest.
These new civil suits have been brought by at least 6 separate individuals and contain a whole slew of damaging and disturbing allegations against P. Diddy. They're brought by 4 women and 2 men who allege variously that between the years of 1995 and 2021, they were either raped or sexually assaulted by P. Diddy. One of those people making the allegations is a man who says that he was a 16-year-old boy when he was sexually assaulted by P. Diddy, who he says presented it as some form of a rite of passage for getting into the music industry. He alleges that Sean Combs told him, "Don't you want to break into the business?" before demanding that he drop his pants. There is an allegation also from a woman who says that she was 19 years old when P. Diddy raped her inside a Marriott hotel room in Manhattan. She's also taking civil action against Marriott hotels. There is another man who alleges that he was attacked by P. Diddy in the stockroom of Macy's, which is a department store here in the United States. He's taking action not only against Sean Combs, but against Macy's department store as well. Lawyers for P. Diddy have again insisted that their client is innocent of the charges against him. They said Mr. Combs and his legal team have full confidence in the facts, their legal defence and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, they say the truth will prevail, that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. Well, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, also faces a federal criminal case that was brought against him recently. The trial date for that is set for May next year. It may be that federal prosecutors decide that these new civil claims could be helpful to them in either expanding their case or bringing the existing case against Sean Combs, better known as P. Diddy.
Rogan continued by connecting the discussion to the broader theme of control and how it functions in various areas. He pointed out that it's not only individuals like Diddy who become consumed by power, but entire institutions such as governments and agencies. Once they gain control, they often hold on to it, sometimes at the expense of others. This raises genuine concerns, including worries about Diddy himself.
Puff Daddy came from rumours of a temper, you know, that he would huff and puff and kind of be, you know, pretty a bold character, I guess, and those rumours have followed him his entire career, and it really wasn't until Cassie filed that lawsuit that story began to unravel.
Yeah, and it's changed his life pretty rapidly, hasn't it, over the past few months? He's gone from 2 mega mansions in LA and Miami. Now, what's his life looking like now in a jail cell?
In a jail cell, exactly. You know, in one of the most notorious and dangerous prisons in New York, in the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center. It's quite an infamous place. It doesn't sound like he's having a great time.
Wouldn't have thought so. I mean, what do we know about that place?
Yeah, look, it's a really, it's a notorious prison in New York. It's quite a dangerous place. We know that he's currently in a dormitory-style room with lots of other prisoners. One of them is actually Sam Bankman-Fried, who's he was convicted last year of fraud in a cryptocurrency exchange scheme. It's a bizarre place, I imagine, and the fact that he's there, I think, is quite significant. Also because his legal team applied for bail, not once but twice, and was denied. And they were going to put up a bond of $50 million. You know, his daughter's and his mother's passport, the equity of one of his condos. You know, he wanted to do home detention with GPS trackers, and they denied his bail applications.
That's pretty much everything in the book that a defence team could offer.
$50 million is
He's facing 5 new civil lawsuits, including one from a woman who alleges she was raped by Combs when she was 19 years old. Combs is currently being held in a detention center in New York City on separate federal criminal charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty.
NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas joins us now with this exclusive reporting. So, Chloe, walk us through what we should know about these new lawsuits.
Hey there, guys. These are the first civil suits being filed by Texas-based attorney Tony Busby. He held that press conference not long ago in which he said he was representing dozens of accusers and that he would be naming some high-profile individuals besides Combs. These are the first. And so there were 5 suits filed today on behalf of 4 men and 2 women, all of which are remaining anonymous out of fear, according to these suits. And these allegations, they only only name Combs and his businesses and actually a hotel and a department store as defendants. They don't name any other high-profile celebrities. And these complaints span from the years of 1995 all the way up to 2021. They accuse Combs of sexual assault and rape, and we've reached out to his team for comment and have not yet heard back. But I do want you to hear a little bit from my interview that I did just a little while ago with attorney Tony Busby.
There's an overarching theme here, as you probably can see, which is basically Sean Combs feels like he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants to do it. A lot of the conduct alleged is violent, and threats were made. And I think, but for the fact that Sean Combs was arrested and bail denied, these people would not have come forward.
Busby says he's going to file other civil suits, and this is all coming as Combs is facing a criminal trial.
This comparison between Hollywood's elites and political figures emphasized Rogan's recurring theme that fame, fortune, and power can be intoxicating and dangerous, regardless of who possesses them.